live on the internet. We're at the local studio here in Miami. I'm still Dave Rubin. It's still the Rubin Report, and it's not a great day for America, but I do have a fantastic guest with me for this bonus show. We did our live show this morning. We haven't done two live shows in the same day in a couple of years, but it sort of seemed like today was the day to do it. And sitting next to me is a Fox News contributor and host of The Truth with Lisa Boothe on iHeartRadio. And most importantly, my friend.
Hi, Dave. I know we've been trying to do this, but it has to be like one of the most depressing days.
Well, the funny
and now just come on when there's a world war, when that gets started. We'll do that day as well.
Oh, well, we can pre-book that because I'm pretty sure World War III starts sometime in July. But the timing of this is sort of bizarre because we've wanted to sit down with you forever. There were a couple of logistical things we couldn't work out, so we've had this booked for a while. And we were going to pre-tape it and then release it next week. And then I was like, this morning, I was like, we have to go live because Lisa Boothe, people can say a lot of things about Lisa Boothe. They can't say she isn't outspoken.
Thank you. So well, I didn't know where this was going.
People can say a lot of things.
Yeah, what do they say, Dave?
So I was going to do a proper interview with you, like the Lisa Boothe story and all of the stuff. And because you're also a new Floridian transplant, all that stuff. So we're going to do that another time. Most of my audience knows you already. Fox News, they see you on all this stuff. Do you want to just say anything about yourself and then we're just going to talk Trump? Do you have anything else for someone that's never seen you before that is going, my God, Lisa Boothe, who is this woman?
Check out my podcast, The Truth with Lisa Boothe. I'll get a plug in there. And no, I really tried it. Look, I think we're sort of living in an age of cowardice where a lot of people are afraid to speak the truth. They're afraid to say what they really should be saying because look, we live in this social media, culture where basically like this mob mentality and people try to beat you down and get you to submit to the will of, the broader narrative and the group thing. So I try to kind of get to the bottom of stuff on my podcast and have some conversations that maybe you don't see, that many other places.
And you live it. You don't just say it because you were very proudly unvaxxed. We are both unvaxxed.
Yeah, we were both burned at the stake.
Actually, everyone in this room is unvaxxed. That's very exciting. But it's cost you gigs and jobs and kept you out of studios and a whole bunch of stuff. So you do walk the walk too, is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, I mean, look, there was a period where we couldn't go out to dinner in New York City, right? We were crucified for not wanting to get vaccinated. And that's really, kind of makes you understand where we are today in this day and age where, with Trump getting indicted. I mean, even then, you looked at the Rasmussen polling, almost half of Democrats wanted to put people like us in government camps.
Give them a chance.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not too late, Dave. But like we probably, who knows what we could have continued in the direction of China if it hadn't have been for Omicron and essentially everyone getting deprogrammed because you had all these people who thought somehow they were never going to get COVID who ended up with COVID. And then they're like, oh, doesn't make you a bad person if you get COVID, like, let's move on, Right. But who knows what would have happened otherwise.
Right. Wow, that's very white pill of you that things got better because, they are going to bring it back when they need to. But speaking
I don't know if it would be COVID, but it'll be like climate or, God, I mean, who knows? They could create anything, right?
Speaking of crucifixions, though, with Easter and Passover right here, let's just throw to the video. So if you haven't seen it just in the last half hour or so, this is Donald Trump entering the courthouse. This is about 20 seconds or so. There he is walking in. You see the way they didn't hold the door for him, like the guy intentionally let it swing on him. That was the face the entire time. There is the picture. He pled not guilty. So we have
That's just rude. You should always open the door for people. So
well, just hold the door for the guy. Yeah. I mean, he is the former president, even if you don't like him. But
have some respect.
Fine. Give me your just sort of general take on this, and then we'll dive into some of the specifics.
I mean, I honestly find it terrifying, right? I mean, whether you like Trump or you hate him, it's not even really about Trump. It's about the bigger picture. It's about the future of the country. And you aren't a free country if you don't have the rule of law. And I think we're sort of mourning the death of the rule of law, mourning the death of due process, mourning the death of the equal application of the law with this. Because we know that you've got someone like Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA. He downgraded 52% of felony cases to misdemeanors, and now he's trying to elevate maybe a misdemeanor to a felony. And meanwhile, I mean, you know how dangerous New York City is right now. Dave, I left New York, you left California for a lot of the reasons, crime, all these other things that were going on in these places. And so he's fine with people getting shot in the street. I mean, there's literally executions happening in the streets of in New York. But this is what gets his attention?
You know, it's funny because every time I go back to New York to do usually something on Fox, so Gutfeld or whatever it might be, we've been there together at similar times. And last what was it, maybe 3 weeks ago, we had dinner in New York and we were both like, man, this city is done. And it has something to do with the DA, who is, no pun intended, trumping up the charges. So taking what technically would be misdemeanors, making them into felonies. I mean, this guy, oh, and by the way, he is Soros funded. He is Soros funded. It's not anti-Semitic to say that. Soros gave $1 million to the PAC that helped get this guy in office. Like, that's just a fact.
Well, it's also just depressing. I mean, think about like how hard life is for so many Americans right now. You know, you can't put food on your table. You can't pay your bills. Everything costs more with inflation, and it's intentional by the Biden administration, right? Increased spending, also, trying to not allow things like, drilling, and for us to be able to be energy independent here in America, driving up costs in almost every aspect. So people are feeling the pain of the economy. And then you've got, the concerns about, Biden trying to instigate a world war as well. You're not safe in your streets, particularly if you live in liberal cities like New York. And so I think this is almost a slap in the face to so many Americans who are saying, we've got real problems, right? Like, life is not great for so many Americans. There's a heaviness with everything going on in the country. But then this is what gets the left's attention. This is what they're focused on right now. It's not about making the lives of Americans better. It's about trying to go after Donald Trump, to try to get this trophy, which is the way they view him, and to put it on the mantle of, Alvin Bragg ran on this. And this is what he said in the Democrat primary. He ran on, I'm going to be the guy who gets Donald Trump.
And by the way, he's not the only one. Remember when Rashida Tlaib in Michigan, the night she got voted in, she said, I'm here to impeach Trump. I mean, these people have been doing this for a long time. But could it be, do you think it's possible, like, they got him now? Like, this is different. This is different than impeachment 1, impeachment 2, raid at Mar-a-Lago, all of the stuff. Like, this feels different. I mean, he actually just pled not guilty. He was in a courthouse. They dragged him to another state. Whether it's a complete farce or not, it does feel different.
I think what concerns me with that is that this isn't it, right? He's facing that investigation out of Georgia. He's facing federal investigations as well. And these are criminal investigations that he's facing. So yeah, bigger than impeachment, bigger than these things where, he's not facing a criminal investigation with that, but he is facing in Georgia, obviously in New York City, we're talking about it right now, and then also federal as well. And so I think that's my concern, is that, look, these investigations have weight. And they've already made it known. You mentioned Rashida Tlaib. We know that Alvin Bragg has said that this was his mission. We know that this is the mission of the left. They want to destroy him. So I don't know. That's a lot of incoming fire that he's taking, and real incoming fire as well.
Are you over the intentions with these people? That's sort of what you implied a second ago, that it's not good intentions. Like, these people are telling you what their intentions are, and they're going ahead and do it, meaning that they're not just sort of like in over their head and get into these messes, but they're here to actually jail former presidents and scare the hell out of the rest of us and tank the economy and pretty much everything else.
Well, yeah, I mean, they went after Mark Hoke, the pro-life Catholic. He went and was basically just trying to get a woman to change her mind, women to change their minds to not get abortions. They arrested him in front of his 7 children. Thankfully, he ended up, not the grand jury in Pennsylvania decided not to move forward for him, so he's going to be okay. But you look what they've done to the January 6th protesters as well. Even during COVID, I mean, half of Democrats wanted to put us in a government facility for not getting vaccinated, right? So, of course, this is the mindset of today's left. Or even look at the fact that after the murders in Nashville at that Christian school, innocent babies, right, at the hands of a domestic terrorist, a transgender individual, what did Biden do? This is the day of
trans, whatever. Yeah.
And they blamed it on Christians, and they tried to elevate the murderer, right? So, yeah, I think that there's a sickness on the left, and this isn't just a one-off in New York City. This is sort of the sweeping mentality of today's left. They're militant.
Have you seen anyone on the left, or any of the few remaining sane liberals, and it's always fewer and fewer as the days go by, stand up for Trump right now? Because we were looking this morning. Because to me, it doesn't even matter if he did something potentially illegal here. The idea that you're going to go after former presidents, we end up in an autocracy it's begun in a certain way. Once you say, okay, we're going to arrest former presidents, especially on technicalities from years ago that have nothing to do with government corruption or what he did in office, having to do with a personal thing that he did before he was president. Once you start doing that, you're basically saying to everyone who would dare be president, we'll arrest you too, so you may not want to give up power. That's how this happens.
Well, and I think that's sort of the intent, right? I mean, they want people to be scared from running for office. They don't want us to have good candidates. And that's even just saying that, I mean, you look at what the FBI did in 2020, you look at big tech coming in and not disallowing the sharing of the Hunter Biden story. So we already know that, Republicans are fighting with our hands, at least one hand held behind our back in an election. But, even beyond that, I think they're trying to scare off conservatives from running for office. Look, we did this to Trump. We'll do this to you as well. And honestly, it's probably working. I mean, don't you think there are a lot of people who, maybe a decade ago would say, I'm going to run for office. I want to make a difference in this country. And then I think there's some people saying, can I even make a difference? Will it even make a difference? Well, and then also, my God, do I want to have to deal with this?
It's interesting because on the show this morning, I was talking about how to get into politics in the first place. It's so
Can I drink
messy.
This as we're talking?
It's so corrupt.
So you know it's mine.
It is whiskey.
Lipstick.
Yeah,
no, it's not.
That's someone else's lipstick.
Could we?
Whiskey,
we need it today.
Whiskey can be arranged.
Let's get the. I'll do the tequila with you. Yeah.
That's how you know we know each other.
We need it today. It's I know. It was of all days I'm going on with you, and it's I just want to sit in the corner and drink tequila and be depressed.
We can get a drink after this.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to.
But I was saying on the show today how it's politics already is messy, and they will come for you and they will come for your family. And in some ways, Trump shifted that when he first ran, because it was he wasn't hiding that he wasn't this perfect human, that he didn't have these relationships. He brought out, remember the debate when he brought out all of the women that Bill Clinton in essence raped or was accused of raping, all that stuff. But now it's they escalated that. Now it's we're not just going to go into your past and find out what skeletons are in your closet. We will post-presidency arrest you. That's just a big escalation.
Well, it is, but we've kind of seen it coming a little bit too. I mean, even remember what they did to Brett Kavanaugh?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you take a guy who is such a nerd that he kept his high school calendars.
Yeah.
Who does, right? Who I didn't even keep a calendar in high school. It's he's just such a nerd.
And they turned him into the serial rapist.
Father of two. And then Christine Ford's attorney comes out later saying that basically she was driven by, abortion on this. We know that her testimony and her allegations don't check out factually. There were a lot of issues with it factually. She had talked about some therapist notes. We don't even know if they've existed. No one's even seen them, right? And then she lied about her fear of flying. She had a former ex-boyfriend come out basically saying she's crazy, she's a liar, signed that under oath, right? So, but they were willing to do that. And there are Democrats that knew that it was bogus, right? And even what she was, anyways, the whole thing was garbage, but they were willing to slander this man, destroy his life, destroy his livelihood in front of his wife and kids for politics.
Do you think that's what this is really about in a weird way? It's they've gotten away with so many lies about all of these people and Jussie Smollett and this. I always go through the list on the show. So
there's a big. We don't have. Do we have time for that?
We don't. Very fine people. They've lied about so many things.
It's Hillary Clinton's reasons for why she didn't win. It's it's endless. She's
an illegitimate president. But because they've lied about everything for so long and gotten away with all of it, I think in some ways it's just for the machine and these machine people, it's just well, let's just lie again. Let's just do whatever we can because nobody ever stops us or pays the price.
So I think my biggest concern is that, how after Biden, and I don't believe it was the withdrawal from Afghanistan. I don't necessarily disagree with that. It was the manner in which he did it and the botched withdrawal and the fact he got 13 service members killed and just the chaos and leaving all those weapons behind, to the Taliban, sort of the embarrassing nature of it. You had all these bad actors, whether it's Putin, whether it's Kim Jong-un, whether it's President Xi, all saying, oh, okay, now's the time, right? If I'm going to take Taiwan, if I'm going to try to, move forward with my nuclear ambitions, if you're Iran, now's the time to do it under this guy because Joe Biden showed his cards. And I think we as Americans showed our cards during COVID, right? How many people just rolled over? Yeah. Right? They said, go out and get a vaccine that might not be safe, that you might not even need for a virus that isn't a threat to your life when you're still going to spread it to other people, but you better go get it and you're going to get a vaccine passport. log it in on your phone. We're going to track you, you know, and then people just rolled over and they said, okay, sure. So if you're Gavin Newsom, if you're Joe Biden, if you're any of these bad actors, you know, they're saying, oh, I can do whatever I want to these people.
I think we just got the first photo of Trump sitting before the judge. Did it just come out? I think we got it right there. That's Trump in Trump form with the lawyers around him. I mean, isn't a portion of this also just the deal that seems to have been made and held between Trump and the media in some ways? Like, if you think about it, Trump, I think it was in September, announced he was running for president again. Then we had like 2 or 3 months of not much from Trump. There really wasn't much. It was sort of like, oh, did this thing run out of steam? And now it feels like they just threw him the life raft. Like, they do need him because they want clicks and views, and he is better than anyone for that. So it's like, that feels like a very, very dangerous combo to me.
Well, I also believe that, I mean, the Trump derangement syndrome is real, right? Like, we always talk about it sort of in a joking manner, but it's real. I mean, the level of hatred for this guy, I mean, that is a real thing, right? Like, people, you could tell, you could just give someone blatant facts and they've already made up their mind about this guy. Yeah, they either love him or they hate him. And so I believe that, you know, you've got the vast majority of the media really hates this guy. You've got Democrat politicians really hate this guy. And I truly believe that they want to see him in jail. I mean, how excited is MSNBC today or CNN?
Well, they know they're going to get views also. So it's double, right? It's like, oh, we could jail him, which is great. We're jailing Hitler. We're such good guys. And it's also like, oh, and people are actually going to tune in when generally people have been tuning out of this nonsense.
But I think they also just want it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think they just genuinely hate this guy and they actually want to see him in prison. And I think we've reached a point in politics, maybe perhaps because of social media or whatever it is, where like you sort of have this like social contagion where, you know, everyone's just like feeding off, and it's like this feeding frenzy, right? With this mentality that we have as a country. But, you know, we sort of, there's been like this dehumanization of people. You know, like this othering of people. And we saw Joe Biden, you know, go along with it when he stood in Philadelphia to labeling 75 million Americans who supported Trump as essentially domestic terrorists, right? And we see it in the media as well with MSNBC and CNN, the way they talk, right? It's like I don't even think they view Trump as a human being.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they've dehumanized him to such a degree that, like, I don't even think they view him as a human life.
What should we be doing right now? Like, for the average person that's watching this.
Well, I said tequila, but
we will do tequila after. We will do. I don't know, is there a liquor store around here, guys? We're going to see what we can do. But like, for the average person that's watching this, I think part of the reason the machine always wins is the average person is kind of doing what you mentioned before. Like, they have to have a job and they want to live their life and they want to watch TV and not worry about everything all the time. So the machine just kind of moves on everybody all the time because they know that people will just allow their freedoms to disappear. They'll allow the symbols. Did you see Glenn Beck was on Tucker last night? And one of the things he brought up, he brought up something that I thought was really great. He said Trump is no longer a man in a way. He's a symbol. And I think that's right. It's sort of like Christopher Nolan's Batman thing. Like, it's like Trump now represents this thing. And either are we going to fight for it or against it? And clearly a certain amount of people just won't care what the truth is.
Well, I also think that, you know, everything's so bad, right? We talked a little bit about that earlier with just the economy, just, you know, COVID, I think, was really harmful on so many. I mean, we saw it with increased depression, increased suicides, overdoses, people dying from overdoses. So we saw it in terms of numbers and just, you know, a matter of fact. But I think just with every, right, it really just, it just led to the heaviness in the nation. And so, you know, I think, and then you add on us all this other stuff to it. So I think people are somewhat intentionally just kind of turning off the TV, putting their head down, trying to get through the day, spend time with their family, because it's almost too much. You know, if you're really, I mean, we're in this, right? We have to be in this. And even for us in the media, sometimes when I'm not, sometimes when I'm not doing TV or I'm not working, I turn it off, I go for a walk, I get outside, I spend time with my dog, I try to see my friends, talk to my family, because if you're just in it 24/7 and you're just paying attention, it's too heavy. Like, it really is all just too much. And then you add on like personal stuff that, you know, so many Americans are going through just in their own lives. So I think to some degree, maybe people aren't seeing everything as they should, because it's just too much if you really paid attention to it.
Do you think in some ways Trump brought a little bit of this on himself by being so combative with everybody for so long and you know, getting rid of so many people and making so many people enemies. And even in the last month or so, I've been very critical of Trump. Trump, who I like, and I voted for, and I might vote for again. I'm more inclined to vote for him now than I was probably a couple weeks ago. But all of the crazy stuff with DeSantis, that he's turned so many people against him that he was in some ways bringing this upon himself. It's not an excuse for it, but just at some level.
I mean, I think sometimes there can be truth in a bunch of different things, right? Like, sure, do I believe that Trump has brought some stuff upon himself, on tweets and or even, going after Alvin Bragg personally? I mean, I would have to assume that if you're Alvin Bragg, that only feeds the beast, feeds the fire, right?
The picture with the baseball bat,
yeah, so
talking about death and destruction on the streets of New York City if they indict him, like these things where it's like, ugh.
Yeah, but then I also believe that probably the bigger driver of it was the fact that you had a guy that wasn't easily controllable. Right. And I think what we've seen in Washington, D.C. that's really sad is it's not just Democrats who are the problem. It's also a lot of Republicans as well. Right. This, people talk about a uniparty or whatever you want to call it. Right. It's the government bureaucracy that's really working against the American people, and they're serving their own interests. They're not serving ours. And so I think you got a guy in Trump that really wasn't able to be controlled. He was really fueled by the people. And I believe he ran for office in 2016 for the right reasons. I do believe that he's a patriot. I do believe he loves this country. I do believe that he thought he was the guy to change it. Yep. And he couldn't be bought. He'd be on stage being like, yeah, I gave to Nancy Pelosi because I could buy her. Like, and everyone's like, all right, yeah, makes sense, So I think you had a guy with him that couldn't be controlled. And what we've seen during COVID, what we've seen even with this trans stuff, they just want you to shut up, submit, and bend to the will of the party. Right? Whether it's Democrats or Republicans, sort of this collective beast that we're facing in government. And if you don't bend the knee, then they try to destroy you, like they did even with us during COVID, right? You can't go here, you can't do this. We're going to make your life miserable. And then some people on, CNN, like that former Planned Parenthood lady, saying that, she didn't want us to be able to go to grocery stores or even be able to do little things in life. They almost try to stop us from being able to fly, right? And it's because we didn't bend the knee. And so I think Trump didn't bend the knee. So I think that's the bigger issue. But, sure, has he done things that could he made his life a little easier in certain arenas? Right. Of course.
Do you sometimes think we're just like in the show must go on version of democracy at this point, that nothing kind of works the way it's supposed to work? So we sort of need these hysterical moments every few months. We need like COVID craziness to keep everyone glued to something, to just keep the machine going. We need a Trump indictment because to your point, the economy is not good. We're in this war that we're half not in, or we're in, or we're at least funding.
Or do we even know what the truth is?
Nobody even, or why are we there?
Yeah.
Or the fact that the president has dementia. Like the list goes on and on. Like these things.
Where's the tequila, Dave?
Yeah, where is the tequila, people?
Oh my God.
I normally don't.
What does someone have to do?
I normally don't do tequila shows after. It's
I'm
5
just
o'clock
kidding.
somewhere.
I don't know why. It's just like it's a depressing day. I'm sorry.
All right, we will get tequila after this.
Okay.
But do you think that sometimes? I do think that a lot. That in some ways it's like we're just in the show must go on. The crazy has to keep going because it's the only thing that unites us, actually. Whether you're on one side or to the other, it's just like the craziness is the driver now, as opposed to, hey, live and let live. Let's get out of the way. Everyone calm down.
Well, it's like, yeah, I mean, what really unites us anymore?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you've got half of the country who reveres the flag, another half that wants to burn it. I mean, like, where do you find camaraderie and unity in that scenario? But, I mean, I think the biggest hope, or, the only path forward really is someone who can get in office, if we hopefully can get someone into office, which, they're probably going to do everything they can to prevent that from happening. Yeah. But if we can, is someone who really wants to decentralize government. I mean, that is the biggest reason why we're here, is just the increased centralization of everything, of government over, throughout the entirety of America, right? The whole point was we're supposed to be decentralized, right? And you've had the increased centralization of the federal government. And then not only that, but the increased centralization of big business. I mean, during COVID, what happened? So many small businesses decimated. Well, small businesses are more decentralized, right? So you have the big grow more powerful during COVID. And now with a lot of, with banks going under, it's the big banks getting more powerful. And the more big we have, the less...
Too big to fail, and then we make them big.
Yeah, the more big everything is, whether it's big business, big government, big tech, whatever it is, the less power we, the people, have. And so I really believe that the only path forward, if we want to salvage this republic, if it's even salvageable at this point, is someone who truly, with every fiber in their being, is willing to risk it all to decentralize everything and just to go in and to try to gut government from the inside as much as you possibly can. And that's the path forward.
What do you think about this theory? I'm going to float one for you
gosh,
that I got last night. So David and I don't talk about politics that often, especially since kids. It's mostly about kids or whatever's going on in life. But we were sitting last night talking about the Trump thing, and he said to me something that I actually think is pretty interesting. What if the country's just not ready for sanity yet? Meaning that I think most of us want sanity. What we've seen here in Florida is sanity, and it is great and joyous and wonderful and worthy of celebrating and exporting and all that stuff. But what if, for whatever reason, the country itself, the 350 million people, like, we're not ready for sanity? So it's almost like we need more Trump before sanity, something like that.
So I personally,
like, we wouldn't even know what to do with sanity as a country.
I mean, I think I would like it.
I dig it. Well, we're here in Florida where it's sane. So it's a disconnect.
Yeah.
It's right. It's a disconnect between.
I could get on board with it, Dave. I'm just saying, like,
it's not great for ratings.
I'm on team sanity.
Yeah.
I mean, but I believe that the right message moving forward is just simple. It's just fixing America.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't, I think most Americans, whether they want sanity, insanity, whether they're thriving off of the feeding of the beast, whatever it is, I think if you just say, you know what, we should live in a country where you can find baby Tylenol, baby food for your child, baby formula for your child.
Use a gas stove.
Flights should be able to take off on time. Trains shouldn't be crashing at this rate. You should be able to pay, you should be able to afford to put gas in your tank and be able to afford your bills. And we're just going to get back to a place where America is running again. Like, I think most Americans just want to know we don't have to live like this, right? We're choosing this path. We don't have to live impoverished. We don't have to live where you can't own anything. We don't have to live where you have to be in fear of your life walking down the street. Like, we can get back to America that runs again.
Right. I think that was David's point last night. We're sort of like addicted to the other thing. Because everyone wants that. And if you really sat people down and tried to, like, really calm everybody down and let's calm down about Trump and let's not worry about Biden's dementia. But if you really got everyone to sit there and be like, what do you want? It's exactly what you just laid out there. But there's very few models for that. But we do have a model for it here, right? I mean, we really do.
I don't know. I maybe I'm just, I'm just choosing to believe this. And it's like, it's just me believing this. But I do believe that things are so bad that Americans really just want life to be simpler and easier. I do believe that we are at a place, a juncture where people want that. And I view it like dating too. Like, when you're younger, you date the guy who's, like, fun to hang out with and, whatever. And then when you start getting older and you want to have kids, you want to get married, you're like, I not boring, but, like, I want someone who's just stable.
Yeah, 3 a.m. Yeah, got it.
Like, no, knows what he's doing. Just, you know what you're gonna get. It's, and so I think that is maybe where, everything's just been
Tell us more about dating the other guy. Go ahead. I know what the people want.
Gosh,
Lisa.
Dave, how much time do we have? I'm not gonna name any names.
No,
but
no names.
20s dating looks different than, late 30s dating. But point being is that I do think that, America's had enough of the, like, crazy, I think that people want some stability and want life to just be normal.
I agree with you. And that's why it's funny, because that's why over the last month or so I've been critical of Trump, because I was like, wait a minute. We have that here in Florida with the guy that you backed twice and all of that stuff, who everyone, all the people that suddenly kind of hate DeSantis, you all loved him 2 months ago. He was your hero. Now he's your enemy. And I didn't want Trump. I was like, make the case for Trump. I was talking to the camera like, hey, Don, like, make your case. But that's not the case to destroy DeSantis in the process, because he's the guy doing that thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't like the attacks on Governor DeSantis. I mean, we both know him. We live here. He's an amazing governor. He's a good person, right? Like, Casey DeSantis is an amazing person. Like, they love their kids. Like, they are good people. And he has been doing a phenomenal job in the state of Florida. I mean, we're here because of him and because of the environment that he has created here, right? So I don't like the knocks on Governor DeSantis. He's doing an amazing job. He's a phenomenal governor. I think my biggest concern with Trump and trying to get reelected is that he would have 4 years versus 8 years for someone else. And I worry that the things that you have to do, particularly with the federal government and really just trying to rein in this beast, I don't know if you can get that done in 4 years. And I think we're also at a point where again, Republicans are fighting with an arm behind our back. So, if we don't get our shot now to get a Republican, when would it happen? I don't want to like scare people, but I genuinely feel that we are moving close to an authoritarian nation. I mean, you look at a lot of the things that China did during COVID. I mean, were they that dissimilar than what people were trying to do here?
It exported the virus and then it exported the mind virus.
Yeah, and so, I don't really know. I mean, I think we're just moving closer to being an authoritarian nation. I don't really know if people love democracy as much as they should, love living in a constitutional republic as much as they should, or maybe they just don't really understand the difference between, the direction that we're heading and where we could be. So, I don't know where I was going.
All right.
Sorry.
I'll handle it. Don't worry. I'm a professional. You got nothing.
I had something for you, Dave.
No. You got nothing to worry about. It'll come back to you by the time I finish this sentence. Well, I was in D.C. last week.
It was going to be awesome.
I have no doubt.
It was the best thought anyone's ever had.
You will get it.
Yeah,
it's out. It's floating like over here now.
So that's happened to you before on TV, where like you are trying to break in a conversation. You've got this thought, and you're like, oh man, I'm going to freaking nail it. And then they go to a commercial break, and you like miss, and then and then I've had where someone comes back and they're like, "Oh, Lisa, you want to finish that thought?" And I'm like, I have like been on my phone, I've texted people. I'm like, I don't even remember what I was, And then like you just say something, and it's like the lamest, it's the lamest thing ever.
But that's the beauty of cable news. It's so condensed, nobody knows what's going on.
But you had a good one, and
we don't cut to
it.
See, you need me to cut to commercial right now. We don't cut. I can't cut to anything.
You wouldn't even do it for me?
I guess we could just step away from the chairs for just a moment.
How awkward.
We could put on some elevator music.
How awkward would that be?
That would be pretty awkward.
So one of the first interviews I did when I was working on a campaign, or it wasn't my first, I had done a couple at this point, but I thought the interview was over, so I started like awkwardly walking backwards because I was trying to get out of the camera shot, and I didn't realize we were still live. So I'm just on camera being like, just...
Wait, real quick, and then we'll get back to this. As long as we're doing first TV things, one of my first TV things ever, I was doing Republican National Convention coverage when Mitt Romney was going to be the nominee, whatever year that was, 2012, I guess. And I was supposed to do, it was Larry King was anchoring this thing at Aura TV. He had just left CNN. They had this big studio audience, and the air conditioning broke. It was hot as hell in that room.
Ugh.
They put me in a ton of makeup. So they put me in a ton of makeup, and they had me waiting behind this thick ass curtain. So it was, I was freaking melting. I could feel my face melting off. I walk out there. I had to write some stand-up during the convention. So like 5 minutes before I'm working out in front of them, I'm dripping. My face is falling apart. It's all over my shirt, everything. Larry looks at me. He goes, live on air. He goes, and we didn't know each other at the time. We then became friends after. He goes, Dave, you're sweating more than Albert Brooks in broadcast news. And I was like,
you're like, now I'm really nervous.
That's pretty good.
I wasn't nervous enough yet.
We're getting some info live here. What does that say? Breaking: the Ninth Circuit just awarded Trump $121,000 in attorney fees from Stormy Daniels. Order just released. This is in addition to the roughly $500K she already owes him, and he left the courtroom apparently a few minutes ago. So Trump's making money on this thing now? It's like, what the high hell is going on here?
I mean, this is just such a sham. I mean, we know too, like, okay, so for either a misdemeanor or a felony, the statute of limitations are already up for either, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I think most people, there was even the CNN poll today where I think something like 52% of Americans thought that this was politically motivated, right? It's like they're not even trying to hide it. Like, it's so blatantly obvious that that's what's driving this thing.
But do you think that's a feature, not a bug? Meaning they want everybody to think, boy, it doesn't matter if 52% are against it. It doesn't matter if most people think it's bogus. It doesn't matter if the statute of limitations has passed. It's like, we're still going to do it because that's the thing that people fear, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe that, like, the curtain has been pulled, right? Yeah. Like there was, I believe, at least some desire to conceal a lot of this stuff in the past, and then now it's just laid bare, right? Throughout the Trump years, right? Like, we know our government is weaponized against us. There's not even, we know that there's a deep state. Like, there's just no desire anymore to hide anything. So yeah, to your point, does Alvin Bragg care that the statute of limitations are up? Does he care that this case is bogus? No, I mean, he said I was going to indict Donald Trump when he was running, and that's exactly what he's doing. He wants that trophy.
Now I remembered the question I was going to ask you.
Well, maybe I'll remember what I was going to say.
Thing from before that.
Know.
When I was in D.C. last week and we reached out to like every Republican you could think of. We got yeses from literally everybody except for Mitch McConnell, who was in the hospital.
Yeah, you're a busy man. I saw that.
Yeah, it was a very packed couple of days. The interviews are still coming out. No yeses from Democrats. Rashida Tlaib did say no, but everyone else just ignored our emails. But one thing that I asked...
Did you say pretty please?
Did we say pretty please in that email? I think there was a pretty please in there. But
could have been why.
One of the questions that I asked every Republican is, to your point, if we can't work with these people anymore, if they've just made their positions clear and they're never going to stop, and they'll be chopping off our kids' genitals, and they'll be teaching racism in school, and they'll be arresting if they're just going to keep going, and my suspicion at this point is that they will, then what does that separation look like? Like, I keep thinking, like, man, I lived in Cali for 8 years. I loved it for 6 years. It was high taxes, whatever, but I did love something about it. I have no desire to go back there anymore. I don't feel any camaraderie with it. The governor is a maniac. Los Angeles is a dump. San Francisco is a dystopian nightmare. It's like, what does connect us anymore? And maybe do you think we really have to be in a way?
You know what? I don't mind not being connected to other Americans. Like, I'm fine with, I mean, I have to go up to New York for work, but like, if I didn't, I would be fine with like never stepping foot in the state again, or not ever going to California again, not having to have conversations with those people. But they won't leave us alone, right? So that's the problem. If we were just allowed to, like, true federalism, everyone just leave us alone, you know, get off our back, let Florida do Florida, like, we would all be in peace. But that's the problem, is they won't. Like, we would allow, you know, California, but they will not allow us.
Florida does not want anything from California. California wants things from Florida.
Yeah, like, they just won't leave us be. So I don't know. I mean, I really, like, what connects me with someone, you know, a liberal in New York City? I don't know, outside of, unless I knew them for personal reasons from, you know, work or family or something like that. I don't know.
So
probably not much.
Is the silver lining, you think, that they're just exposing themselves so fast in real time right now that maybe that curtain, and we're going to look behind it, and it's going to be this little guy and not the all-powerful Oz, and that hopefully more and more people do wake up. But then, you know, there's all sorts of, you know, you can vote in California without IDs, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, I do believe that there are more Americans than not who view a lot of this stuff as nonsense. Like, you know, for instance, like, I think a big issue is the transgender stuff and what they're trying to do to kids, right? I think it says everything about a country in the way that you treat children. And, you know, we have a portion, which I actually do believe is a minority of the population, that are encouraging children to change their genders, encouraging their children to mutilate their body. I mean, if I was cutting myself, my friends would say, my God, Lisa, let's talk what's going on. And we are encouraging this to happen, particularly, you know, in children who are probably going to regret it one day and probably going to have hatred for their parents for allowing them to go through it.
And lawsuits against their parents and a whole bunch of other stuff.
But I do believe, you know, I hope that the majority of Americans look at that and they say, this is wrong. I actually don't believe it. But I think people have been so browbeaten, and I really do think social media has a huge role in that, where there's just this mounting peer pressure. Like, even executives and corporations and companies, you know, are basically being held hostage, I believe, by a small group of people who are vocal online on social media. And so I am just hoping that that silent majority, you know, will go out and try to vote and try to make a difference. You know, I think people really do need to show up, because, again, I think they're going to try everything they can to try to stifle our chances of winning and putting a Republican in the White House.
Isn't it weird, though, that then, you know, we all think a red wave's coming, and it's like, man, that was not a red wave. Like, Republicans did get the House. Okay, that was great. And by the way, when I was there last week, like, the Republicans, I think, are a little different from the uniparty thing. I really do think McCarthy and some of these guys, Jim Jordan and Byron Donalds and now J.D. Vance in the Senate, like, they are a different breed. I really do believe they are. And that's also what's so disappointing about today, because they're doing some good things there, and they're defunding things and everything else. But now all the attention's back on Trump, as opposed to the good things that they're doing, defunding those 87,000 IRS agents, et cetera.
But I believe, though, that the 2024 election, because it will be a presidential election, I don't really know if it'll be as much based off of what Congress did as it will be who's the nominee, what their message is, and what they're going to do for the country. So I really think that what will be driving that election is going to be the presidential election. But, sure, it's good to be able to look at things and say we've done this, we've accomplished, this, that, and the other. But, I think the driving force of the presidential election will be, the presidential election. And look, I was one of those people with the midterm. I thought a big wave was coming, because if you look at just historically, like, all the factors were there. I've worked on previous elections. If this had been even 2016, if this had been, 2010, when I was there for the wave election in 2010, I think we got 63 seats in the House, if my memory serves me correct. I'm a little tired today, but point being is, so I've been there when waves have happened, and so I really felt like that was coming. I do believe that the mail-in ballot thing has completely changed the game, in the sense of, even if you look at Pennsylvania, by the time that the Fetterman-Oz debate had happened, you already had, I can remember almost.
I think it was like 30%.
Yeah, it was like almost half or whatever of mail-in ballots had already been submitted at this point. So,
the point is, before the debate, which was a freaking disaster for Fetterman, who.
Fetterman said goodnight before the debate started. Like, that's really all you need to know. It did not go well.
We played it many times.
He said goodnight before it started. That would be like me coming on the show and being like, goodnight. You'd be like, well, what are we going to do for the next?
I guess we're going to do this backwards.
Do we have more clips? Like, how are we going to get through this? It's not good. But like, when I've worked on campaigns in the past, there were a lot of opportunities to try to change the trajectory of the race. You could find opportunities to try to save it, to try to, salvage a couple points here and there, right? There were moments of momentum that you could capture. Now with mail-in ballots, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Those are few and far between, and probably meaningless at this point, because it's not about earning votes, it's about getting ballots. And so we, as Republicans in a party, really need to wise up to that and to follow suit. In the states where you can do ballot harvesting, obviously everyone needs to do it legally, but in the states where it is legal to ballot harvest and do some of these different things, we need to play ball and do the same thing.
Is that also one of the weird things, and I said this right when Trump announced, that one of the weird things about the campaign in general, and I know this doesn't excuse any of the nonsense going on right now, but if Trump honestly believes that the election was stolen, which I believe he believes, and I was at the 2000 Mules premiere, and he gave a big speech, and obviously he's endlessly talked about it. If he really believes that it was stolen, in a weird way, it doesn't make sense to run again unless you've done something about that. And I don't know that he's done exactly what you're calling for there. He can't do it. He's not president anymore. You'd need Secretary of States in the individual. You need the Secretary of State of Pennsylvania to do something about it. But they have no interest in doing it because their guys are winning.
But I think even, putting aside like ballots and all of that aspect of his concerns with the election, you could even just looking at the disallowing and the stopping of the Hunter Biden story, right? Like Media Matters, there's been all these different pollsters who have done research showing that the dynamics of the election truly would have changed if more Americans had known about the Hunter Biden story and some of these Biden scandals. Yeah. So even with that, you could say that, it wasn't fair. Right. So I do think that there are some validity to his concerns that he's making, even setting aside some of those other arguments.
I'm not denying any of that. I'm just saying that you got to do something about it again if you're going to run again, right?
Well, I think that you need to, and I believe he has said some of this. And, in Florida, we allow for early voting. We're you have election integrity here, right? So
we're show our ID.
Yeah, you show your ID. Yeah, so they're making sure that the people are who they say they are, who are going out and voting, and then they pursue cases where it's not. But yeah, I think he has said that now, we should be doing, or I do believe that was a big mistake in the 2020 election of not, either. I think the first and foremost was legally trying to challenge those things before they took hold. Challenging it beforehand, right? Challenging it before, as the Secretary of State was trying to change these things unilaterally or what have you, whether it was whoever it was, Secretary of State, state legislature, whatever, the governor, going in and proactively trying to preempt some of these things that, took hold that were questionable with, not like Pennsylvania, not looking at matching signatures and things of that nature, trying to get in beforehand and fighting those battles ahead of time, I think would have been more prudent. But, once they took hold, you kind of have to play the game as it's laid out, and unfortunately we're in this era now where it's sort of this new frontier in politics where we are having to deal with mail-in ballots. We are, it's sort of appended the political process, but you can't change anything until you win. And we can't win unless we play the game as it's already laid out. And it's an unfair game. I hate the game. It's a stupid game.
It's an
I want to
evil...
hit like all the, if you're playing Monopoly, I want to just go like this to it and, say this sucks, but.
Or you could be a Democrat and you just keep printing money.
Exactly. Or you just leave. Exactly. But, it is what it is, right? And you kind of have to just deal in reality. So.
What do you think's going to happen? Like, if I know no one wants to be in the prediction game, but you're pretty good about this stuff. Like,
I was until the midterms, and then because I was really good. I was talking about Macomb County, Michigan, in 2016, ahead of the presidential election. Before I was hearing other people on TV talking about Macomb County, Michigan, talking about Trump's path through the Rust Belt on Fox News ahead of the 2016 election. Even on Special Report, I only gave Hillary a slight advantage, and I almost gave them 50-50, but I was talking to people in the green room, and they were acting like I was crazy, so it got in my head. I should have just been, stuck to my gut and gave them 50-50 shot.
For the record, can I pat myself on the back, too, just for a little prediction?
Well, that's what we're doing. Should I pat yours? You want to pat mine?
I was on Joe Rogan I think it was the day before the 2016 election, and I said I thought Trump could win. I just felt, I was like, everything's so out of whack. Social media is so nuts. Wait, let me just pause for 1 sec because they're giving me something right now. This is breaking. Prosecutors asked for a January 2024 trial in New York for Donald Trump. The next hearing is set for December 4th, 2023. Like, this is never going. That's what I'm saying. The show must go on. They have to keep, now we have to talk about this till December and then till January. Middle of the election, will the guy be able to travel to campaign? They just want it to go and go and go and go.
I mean, it's smart too, right? Because people aren't going to be, it's the shiny object.
Yeah.
Look over here. Don't look at the fact you can't pay your bills. Don't look at the fact that you might get murdered in the street when walking down the street.
There's a scary orange man.
Can't go. I know. I have friends in D.C. who won't go get gas now because they're terrified of getting carjacked because there are so many carjackings that are taking place. They're genuinely scared for their life to even just go get gas in Washington, D.C. So it is a shiny object. Don't pay attention to the things that genuinely impact your life. Let's all, pay attention to this witch hunt that is happening in New York City. And it is important, I believe, because we're talking about the rule of law. We're talking about precedent-setting things. Never before in history has this happened. And ultimately, sadly, what this will probably do is then open the door for liberal DAs across the country to say, now we're going to be weaponizing the law even further against conservative candidates, whoever else it may be.
What do you think of I keep hearing this on Twitter mostly, but I think there's some legitimacy to it. A lot of conservative type pundits saying, well, now this is what we have to do too, meaning we have to weaponize the DAs. And it's like, all right, we'll all just go to hell together. Like, I get it. You have to start scaring some Democrats, right? Like, there's many things Hillary paid for the Steele dossier. That's what literally the entire Russia collusion hoax was based on. Bleached the hard drives, like all of that stuff. There's some criminality in there somewhere. But like, to me, it's just like, all right, so we will all go to hell together. Like, that's where it will perpetually take us.
So I've gone back and forth in my mind a lot about this. But I keep coming back to the fact that we might all just be going to hell anyways. I mean, I hope I go to hell. I believe in God, so
He's cool. He's cool.
Dear God, if you're listening,
he watches.
Like to go up there, but we're probably already on that path anyways, and I think that we've reached a point where for the left, their God is government, it's power, and the only thing that they respond to is power. And so in some respect, maybe the only thing that they will understand is realizing that then they're going to be vulnerable as well, right? I mean, look at the amount of crimes the Biden family has likely committed, so if they're going to be pursuing these types of charges against Trump, then they're opening themselves up to similar vulnerabilities, if not more, because based off of all the investigations against Donald Trump, they're going to get him potentially on maybe not even a misdemeanor, that they're trying to elevate to a felony. He's the most investigated man in America, and this is what they can come up with. And I guarantee if you put these kind of resources towards Joe Biden, my God, what you would be able to find.
Or any of the Democrats, and it's usually Democrats, it's Republicans too, but the amount of Democrats that go into office worth next to nothing. Barack Obama was a community organizer and a senator who now has a $12 million house on the in Martha's Vineyard right on the water, so he's not too worried about climate change either. It's like,
Yeah,
where did all that money come from?
Yeah, also, where did those concerns about,
or he also has 30 acres there, and for some reason when they brought those like 12 people from Martha's Vineyard, when Florida shipped them over there, he didn't offer them 1 acre. You could fit 12 people
That was
on
also
an acre.
hilarious, because it was like peace, love, like, we love people that coexist, like, bring the migrants, and then they get there
No
and they're
one's
like,
illegal except if you're in Martha's Vineyard.
yeah, and then they're like, okay, guys, like, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, like, ship them off in buses, and then they're there to hug them and just give them a little tap on the butt and get them going, so that was obviously, DeSantis was brilliant for that, because he sort of showed their cards that it's all a farce. They don't really care about migrants, and they don't really care about people in general. I
got one more for you, Lisa Boothe,
Okay,
and then
go.
I think we're out of time. But wait, we got one more thing. Trump was temporarily placed in a holding cell between 2 other inmates being processed for petty theft. I mean, it's just a farce and so silly and nonsensical. And someone probably snapped a cell phone picture that we'll see of that. One more for you, and then we'll do this again where we can get to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff.
I will. Did I pass
Guys,
the
we're gonna
test?
have her back on.
What's my
Look at
rate?
that. Wow. All thumbs up at once. That's rare.
I thought I saw one down, then I realized it was up. So I was
How do you?
I was trying to look in the dark.
That's what I want to ask you about, Lisa Boothe. You're always
going
smiling.
on?
You're always smiling. You're always laughing. I know so many people on cable news that are, they can somehow turn it on for the camera, but they're like miserable people. So many of the pundits, like, me. This is basically me. The
No,
camera's
it's like
on.
100%
It's but I do think when the camera's on, there's like you adjust 2% or something like that. Like I think there's a
or you're like Anchorman, where I'm like, I don't know what to do with my. I was like talking. I always feel like that.
Your hands, no, they've been
like on
okay.
the show. I'm like, where do I put them?
I've been shifting a lot during this one.
I'm like,
but you are the same person either way, and I think mostly it's usually conservative
hopefully
women.
Positive.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. But conservative women get
I
a
hate you
rap.
on TV and in real life.
But aren't you supposed to be angry and bitter about all of this and upset and all that stuff?
No, I mean, of course I get. Like, I have honestly, I'm not going to lie to the audience at home. It's been like sort of a downer the past few days, right? Because I love this country, and it makes me sad what's happening. I don't have kids yet. Like, when I do have kids, if I ever get around to it at the rate I'm going, what kind of country am I going to be raising them in? I mean that truly. Or if I have grandkids, what kind of, it genuinely worries me. So I have felt it. But I also look, I love life. I love my family. I have great friends, and so there's so much beauty in life as well. And so I tried to do my best of not letting all the negative negate all the positive and not living your life. Because, I mean, how tragic would that be if not only do they put us through all this crap, but then also deprive us of happiness or joy in our own lives, right? And so it's, I believe that we have to fight these things. That's why we were both so outspoken during the COVID stuff. And I don't think we should back down or be cowards, right? We need to be brave and bold and trying to push back a lot of this stuff. But we also have to live our lives.
You ever think it's just like too late also? Like I think that's sometimes
babies or
oh wow, we just went dark.
Should I just off myself?
No, but like too late.
I don't know, Dave. I'm a little worried.
My heart just. You can rent one of mine if you want or something. No, but like that you've gone, because I think it's too. Like I've gone down this path of fighting for the things I believe in so deeply that like I couldn't turn around now. There's just nothing I could do. I could never face myself if I didn't continue the fight, No,
and it's hard. I mean, like I genuinely think it makes it hard with dating. It makes it hard with your life because it's, look how polarizing politics are today. Look how polarizing COVID was and still is today. So it is challenging when we are so outspoken. And when, all someone has to do is Google your name and all this stuff pops up, right? And then they form an opinion of you. So and then I think that's in part what the left wants as well, right? They're trying to make social pariahs out of people who don't agree with them, who won't submit, who won't just go along with the program. And so, I think that part does make life challenging. But I would rather be a social pariah and, have people who I thought maybe love me turn their backs on me than have to live with being a coward every single day of my life. What would be, I don't think I would be able to respect myself, look at myself in the mirror, or take any pride in the way I live my life if I'm a coward.
Lisa, I have only one more word for you.
Oh.
Starts with a T, ends with an A. We're going to go get some right now. Tequila. Lisa Boothe, ladies and gentlemen. All right, guys, we're back
Bye, guys.
at 11 a.m. tomorrow. See ya.